Autumn Brown, front woman of the soul pop band Autumn, a queer science fiction writer, a theologian, a mother of dragons, and a healing justice facilitator for social movements living on Dakota and Anishinaabe land, currently known as Minneapolis.
I'm Adrienne Marie Brown. I'm a writer. Let's get straight to it. I live in the land of the Okinichi, Shikori, Spurure, Tuscarora, Eno, and Lumbee peoples, where we say, bless her heart.
And this is How to Survive the End of the World,
our podcast about learning from apocalypse with grace, rigor, and curiosity.
As a reminder, we have no ads. We're listener supported.
You can join our Patreon for exclusive content. And we are back for another one of our artistic fractal episodes where we are just giving you like tiny morsels about our processes, our creative processes, our artistic processes, because we're deep in them right now. And this is helping us stay in them, re-inspire ourselves in them, and be able to share something with you that's meaningful. So I want to start with you on this one. And I would love for you to share, we both have altar building practices as part of our writing and creative lives. And we approach it, I think, in somewhat aligned and somewhat different ways. But I'm always blown away by the altars you make for your work. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about the altars you did for your album, the altars you keep for your writing processes, and anything else you want to share.
Yeah, I'm a really big believer in creating altars to our creativity. I believe that our creativity arises from our most deep humanity. And it's a way that we are connected to God. It's a way that we're connected to soul. It's a way that we're connected to earth, to spirit. I feel, for me also, it's like a way that I feel most deeply connected to like my mammalian nature. And so, which I think is a way that I can feel very close to the sacred.
Yeah.
There's also something about just like altars as a way of externalizing and calling our attention to our intentions. When I think about
yeah,
what is it that I've talked about this, I think, on a previous episode of the show, but like, what is it that makes a ritual? It's attention plus intention plus devotion. And I think of altars as a way, even though it might feel static because once it's in the world, it's in the world. But I feel like altars are a way that we bring attention to our intention and then can express devotion to our intentions. And so,
hell yeah. So
for me, there are, when I'm putting together an altar for my creative process, there's a set of things that are almost always going to be on it, even if the individual elements themselves might change, there are core elements that are almost always going to be there. So one of those things will be like either a picture or a message that represents an ancestor that I am calling in to support my process. And so I've had this picture of our grandmother, Eloise, that has been just like on my desk basically the entire time I've been working on this book, and has traveled with me to the different places that I've been working on the project. But at different points in time, it might be different ancestors. Sometimes for me, I'll call in a creative ancestor. Like when I was working on my album project, I had a picture of Nina Simone that I carried with me, and she would go on the altar wherever I was working on my albums. So blood ancestor, creative ancestor, someone whose spirit I'm really inviting in to like resource and support the process. There is, I'm a crystal bitch, so I often will have crystals involved.
Yes, you are.
And I love crystals.
She loves a crystal.
I have a collection of amethysts that I and my family found on Lake Superior that has really been like the finding of that amethyst is strongly associated with a turning point in my life where I turned towards art as a core part of my life.
Yeah.
And so the amethyst goes with me. And I always try to draw in physical elements from where I am. So whether that's leaves or herbs or like actual, you know, ephemera of like the geography, stones, or, you know, or yeah, I know.
Ephemera.
I'm so right early. I have like an altar that just is always continuously in existence in my home that I have I have a little like container that I constantly refill with water. So there's like always water on my altar. And then and then there's other things that I will put on my altar that are in relationship to like a particular energy that I might be trying to call into the project. So like if I'm trying to express sweetness, I'll have honey on the altar. Or if I'm trying to really call in beauty, I'll make sure to have flowers or dried or fresh flowers on the altar, or feathers or different things like that. And so and then there's also this element that's about like expressing particular intentions. Like if I have intention for the work, then I will write that intention down, even if it's a private intention.
Yeah.
That I don't want other people to necessarily be holding. I might write it down and fold it up or put it in an envelope and put that on the altar. Or I might write it and then burn it and then have the ashes of the intention on the altar. You know what I mean? There's different ways, obviously, of working with intentions, but like if there's something I am intending to release as a part of the project, then I might engage in the burning. Or if there's something I'm intending to hold, then I might have it be folded up and placed. And then I just want to emphasize also, altars aren't just like, you know, altars aren't, for me, it's not just the something that I put down and place things on top of. It's also like I have like a continuous visual altar to my novel that just stays on my wall in my office, because even though I haven't been working actively on my novel, it is something that I'm like carrying with me at all times, because I know that I'm like going to finish it at some point. And so, yeah, so I think that I just wanted to like presence that other way of that there are lots of ways that we can make altars to things. It's not just like,
I love that.
It's not just on a table or in a bookshelf. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I love that. And before we move on, can you just talk a little bit about, I remember when you were making your first album and you created an altar for that album. Can you just speak a little bit about, I remember it being something that like your collaborators were really like, whoa, you know, but like, what do you think it did in like building an altar for something that became a collective process?
My producer was like, she was like, I've never done this before and I'm never not doing it again. Like she like, it like changed the way that she kind of uses her own recording space, which was really cool to hear. And
that's what I wanted. Yeah. I was like,
and the way that, you know, I think when we entered into the studio, we knew that we were going to make an altar there. And so I invited everyone to bring things for the altar. And so everyone brought pieces and we didn't know what everyone was going to be bringing. And that was really interesting. So, you know, she had a scarf that had been given to her by some very important artists that she had worked with. And that was like the foundation of this like beautiful piece of cloth was the foundation of the altar. And then we all brought, I remember that one of our collaborators, one of the members of the band, Dwight Dunstan, he made artist passes for each of us. Like he collaged these. He's so amazing. He's so amazing. God, so you know how like if you go to a show or if you go to like an artist conference, you get like an artist pass, like a badge. He made badges for each of us that were collaged with like quotes from artists who are our creative ancestors and had these like beautiful visual elements to them. And so he brought them with. And so we had them on the altar as well. Our artist passes, we had honey, we had flowers, we had stones and various things. And so, and then when we did our first live show for our residency at the Red Eye Theater here in Minneapolis, we also built we both built an altar for all of us as artists who were participating in the band. And we built an altar for the audience so that when people came into the space to attend the show, they had an altar to interact with, like a place to kind of set their intentions for how to experience the music. So I guess I'm an altar bitch in addition to being a crystal bitch.
You really are. Like you're just a woo bitch. But yeah.
Okay, tell me about your altar practice, sister.
Well, there's so much that you shared where I'm like, I resonate deeply with it. I have lots of altars around my home. Almost all of them have like 4 or 5 elements, earth, air, fire, and water. And then there's also always something that's like for the otherworldly or for the unknown or unseeable, the spirit, nature itself. And I have altars literally all over my home. And then I have altar items that they stay on altars when they're in my house. But then when I travel, if I'm going someplace else, I'll grab one of these altar items to bring with me so that wherever I go, like I'll just lay that on the desk and it's like, that's the altar. Like that altar object is with me, even though the rest of it is all, this object is carrying the strength and the power of the altar. And there's some that are permanent altars. So like I have in my bedroom, there's always an altar to love that is about friends, family, partners, etc. And that will always have letters and, notes and memories and like, little random flowers or, Zia gave me some horsehair to hold once or like just random stuff like that. That's like, this stuff goes on the altar. And I know when I see it, like I'm loved. I'm so loved. Look at all this love coming in. I have a permanent altar for my ancestors that is in the office here with me. So whenever I'm doing any co-creation, collaboration, when I'm writing in this space, when I'm making music in this space, I'm always like, I can look over and most of them are what I call ancestors in the lineage of my work. So you call them the creative ancestors, right? Where I'm like, oh, these are people who I don't like to be like them, but I'm so moved by how they harness creativity for their own lives. Yeah. And I want to be like that, right? So I'm like, I really love how, that Audre Lorde, like going out like a meteor. I love that Nina Simone was so exacting and demanded praise. I love that Octavia Butler was so prolific and so ambitious. Like Grace Lee Boggs, obviously, was willing to think innovatively for her time. So there's folks like that. And then there's also my own ancestors. So our doggy Sugarfoot, our grandparents, my friend Evans, my friend Charity, different people in my life who have really impacted me and shaped me and who I carry their legacy forward. So I love that no matter what project I'm working with, they're always a part of it. That's the squad. Like they're always like, okay, well, how are we getting down? I love to imagine that, especially when the altar is drawing on these otherworldly forces, I love to imagine it's actually creating a container where they're all in there. Some aspect of them is all in there. And like really imagining them talking to each other. Sometimes imagining like they would argue about this. Like there's going to be different positions amongst my ancestors about this.
Right.
I love that imagining. So all of those are permanent. And then whenever I'm writing a new project, I do this other thing that I'm now understanding to be an altar practice. And I just want to unveil myself here a little bit because I create a new writing nook or a new writing place, right? And I will like rearrange my furniture. I will like change my house up if I need to. Like even if I've got a perfectly fine writing situation, I will go create a new one. Like I will take over a closet or this window now is my writing place or whatever it is. And I set up almost exactly the same situation. So I have like this old typewriter that someone gifted me and that kind of goes on the back of the space as like the weighted anchor of the space. And then I build up other items around it. But I'm not thinking of it when I'm doing it as an altar. I'm thinking of it as I'm making a place to write. And so I make this idyllic little table or nook or whatever where I'm going to write. And everything is just so. And I usually keep my computer there, like whatever computer I'm writing on, the main computer, which that's another practice I have is I usually have this computer that I use for podcasting and events and like busy work and admin. And then I have a separate writing laptop. That's just like this laptop doesn't have all the other stuff on it. It's just dedicated to only the writing stuff, like finishing that project. And so that way I never have to move this one that's all set up for doing events with. So the writing nook then becomes this altar space, really, because it's like, I have this gorgeous, like right now, it's like what would be my dining room. The table is set up. The computer is there. I have this gorgeous jug that I just brought back from Ireland. I have several plants there. I have my Octavia Butler candle, my Harriet Tubman candle, like all these gorgeous things, so that in some ideal world, Adrienne Marie Brown would go sit down at that table and write a book, right? At no point, or no, the first day I sit there
and you're like,
and I do something. And I was like, this is so beautiful. I love this.
File.
I'm a writer. Oh my God. I have tea. That's actually what I do. That's where I sit on the first day. I set up my Scrivener file with my tea and everything else. And then I might come back there later in the process when it's like, okay, we're ready to start to finish this book. And we actually need to sit in one place and like be here for a while. But mostly I write everywhere else. I dictate into my phone. I thumb write into my phone. I write in the bathtub. I dictate in the car, like as I'm driving around to different doctor's appointments and stuff, I'll be like, oh, and here's a story from when I was 7, like whatever. And I dictate it all in. So I'm writing everywhere I am, but knowing that space is there and walking by it every single day and like adding things to it every day, like taking care of the plants that are on it. I'm like, oh, I know what I'm nourishing. I'm writing a book, and that is the altar for that book.
You set the table.
I set the table, and it's like nothing else. Like I'm like, no, I need everyone to understand, like, that's not a dining room table now.
It's a different kind of table.
Don't put anything else on that table. You can't just like, don't put your laundry or your, cup or your phone or anything like that. Like no phones go there. No electronics go there, like other than the writing computer. But it really is like, that's the sacred space for it. And I love having it. It always faces out towards water or out the window towards trees, or it's always looking outside at nature somehow. And then I almost always do a vision board for my altars for a new project as well. So I'll just sit and make a collage magazine, cut stuff out, and develop something that visually gives me a sense of the project.
And you are really, I know we've dropped this hint on the show before. People don't really know though, that you are a really gifted visual artist.
Do you know what, sister? My friend Danny was visiting this past weekend, and she brought that up too, that she was like, oh yeah, like I always thought you were going to do visual arts. Like I thought that was what you were going to do because you're just always making visual art. But yeah, I think so far I haven't had the patience, but
it's cool though. I think it's cool that you just like, there's this whole other way that you make art that people don't know. Yeah. It's like not for anybody.
No, I'm always like making visual art, designing stuff, but it's not, it's just for me. It's like, I have little doodles around the house that make me very happy.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah. All right. Maybe if I made an altar to it, I would actually do something, but,
Great.
All right. So that's a little bit on altar building. I definitely want to encourage everyone who's listening to this. If you have something that you want to create and you haven't made the breakthrough, you haven't gotten started, let the altar building be a way that you begin the process. Like build an altar to your right to create and to the creative channel that is open in you and just waiting for your attention. Bring your ancestors into the mix with you because they already are in the mix with you. That's what you're made of. And then,
it's a great way to initiate.
Yeah. Thank you, sister.
Thank you.
Shake these bones, oh, we're gonna shake these bones, oh, we're gonna shake these
Thanks for listening to our show. We're on Instagram at End of the World PC.
You can make a sustaining donation to our show by visiting our page at patreon.com/endoftheworldshow.
Another incredible thing you can do to help our show sustain itself is to write us a review on Apple Podcasts if you are an iPhone person. This helps people looking for good new content find us. Thanks.
And if you're not on iPhone or Apple, you can write reviews in so many other places as well. Just write reviews somewhere. How to Survive the End of the World is produced and edited by the very loving father, Zach Rosen. Transcripts are in our show notes and on our website at endoftheworldshow.org.
Music for today's show comes from Tunde Alaniran and the Banksons.